In 1999, environment law in Australia changed forever with the passage of the Commonwealth Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act, a national scheme to protect matters of national environmental significance. This case, heard by the Federal Court of Australia, was the first test of that new legislation. The Bosworths ran a lychee farm, which was adjacent to the Wet Tropics National Park in North Queensland. That part of the national park was home to colonies of spectacled flying foxes who would fly out in their hundreds and eat the lychees. The Bosworths erected arrays of electric wire, which electrocuted hundreds of bats each night. So many bats that in one season over 10% of all spectacled flying foxes were killed. This was discovered by Dr. Caroline Booth, a specialist in this area. She sought an injunction to stop the electrocutions. The injunction power itself was new for environmental law, as was the idea of environmental court action being initiated by someone not from the government and not directly affected. The key question for the case was whether the culling of those bats would be likely to cause significant impact on the World Heritage values of the wet tropics. The bats were, after all, just one of many species in the park, and they were only being killed in significant numbers for 6 to 8 weeks each year during the lychee season. Justice Branson performed a deep dive into the meaning of biodiversity and the World Heritage values which had led to the nomination of the wet tropics as a World Heritage Area in the late 1980s. He found a dramatic decline in the population of a species so as to render the species endangered, where that species forms a part of the record of the Earth's evolutionary history or of the biological diversity of a most important and significant habitat, is to be understood as having an impact that is important, notable, or of consequence. He found that it was irrelevant that the actions had been taken on the Bosworth's own farm and not in the national park. The fact that their actions were likely to have a significant effect on the national park was enough to trigger the provisions of the Act. The result was that the injunction was granted, the bats were saved, and the era of the EPBC Act had arrived.